G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here, and I am not wearing my fire brigade hat. And I am not looking at a crime scene. Officially, according to the police, this is not a crime scene. Which is kind of puzzling because the New South Wales Fire Brigade put it out late Thursday night, early hours of Friday morning, Thursday 16, Friday 17 of December 2016. Clearly, this car has been heavily involved in fire. The fire has been hot enough that it burnt into the garden of the adjoining property, burnt all the vegetation off a fig tree and cooked the lawn halfway from the fence to the clothesline. Judging by the residue and the marks and the staining on the roof, the hottest part of the fire has melted the girders somewhat to the right of the car. This is the driver's side rear wheel. Not only has the tyre been burnt off, but the alloy casting has been alight. It has been burning. That means that the temperature just here has been 1100 to 1200 degrees Celsius to ignite that aluminium alloy. The space between the car and the fence has been fully involved in high temperature, high intensity fire. Driver's side front wheel, tyres burnt, but the alloy wheel is structurally intact. There's been fire on the bonnet and the entire car destroyed. Thermal expansion of the roof has buckled it. Passenger side rear wheel, the rubber has burnt off, but the cast wheel is structurally intact. Quite a lot of broken glass out here. That's apparently blown out of the car. Curiously, blistering from radiant heat on this Ford Cortina panel van melted the wing mirror. A bucket of oil has been left with the oil right down on the plastic line. Driver's side front tyre intact. Sorry, passenger side front tyre intact. Glass from the rear window has fallen in and melted onto the seat and the seat belt supports. The displacement of the marks of the hottest part of the fire on the roof away from the car indicates that combustible gases have been venting out through these windows after the windows have shattered and burning up to there, together with the lack of involvement on this side, kind of suggests that the wind was more or less blowing in the direction that the lens is looking right now. Thus accounting for the southwesterly displacement of the impact of the hottest part of the fire on the roof of the carport. This is the spare tyre which some curious person has lifted out of the boot of the car, or trunk to the Americans. As you can see, it's been surrounded by heat. It has suffered from some combustion, but it's a lot more intact, even though it was inside the car. And this wheel, which was outside the car, got up to 1100 degrees, 1200 degrees before the metal of the wheel started to burn. Now, there are two hypotheses as to what caused this car to combust this way, with the hottest part of the scenario out here initially. One way is spontaneous combustion. Somehow the car just set itself on fire. And some cars do that, but when they do it, the fire starts in the engine and the front end of the car is enveloped, and then it burns back towards the back. And that's kind of like the exact opposite of what has happened here. Here, the headlight and plastic grille are intact. The plastic door handles, they are not there at all. And down here, there's an absolutely clear entry path from out there beside the back wheel at 1200 degrees through a plastic exterior panel and a fiberboard interior panel and some insulation into the luggage compartment and through the fiberboard and insulation into the passenger compartment. And there's another one of those holes on that side. The tail lights would provide another avenue of entry for the fire that was burning out here to get in to the vehicle. In the fire brigade, they teach us that there's a thing called a triangle of fire. You have to have fuel, you have to have heat, you have to have oxygen. Here we have a metal car at night on the ground. The only way to support combustion of this intensity would have been for somebody or some way to add fuel to this situation. I'm thinking a liquid accelerant, probably a hydrocarbon, like maybe somebody approached with the wind over their shoulder from the northeast and held a jerry can up with a spout and poured fuel in that direction and poured it all over that whole side of the car so that the fuel continued on in the direction of flow with the wind behind it, thereby not coming down anywhere near whoever it was who was holding whatever container administered the liquid hydrocarbon accelerant, before they then backed off with the wind behind them over their shoulder, and then they have tossed in some form of an ignition onto the fuel under the air surrounding the vehicle. And it has gone up very, very suddenly, very, very intensely. Those of you who've watched my previous video will be aware that a friend of mine had his dog in this car when the car burnt. He's come out his back door, he's seen the flame, realised he couldn't get through the gate because the fence was getting burnt out to there. So he's run around and up the lane. And he's got in here between the two cars, and he's got blisters from discovering that the door handles weren't there. He's made eye contact with his dog, who's realised that his master couldn't help him, and the dog has then dug down into the passenger's footwell, trying to get his head into a pocket of the coolest air inside the vehicle. I have a suspicion, absolute speculation, I think this side of the car was so hot the chassis was probably bent by expansion of the metal, because this side was hotter than than this side because there was less fuel on the ground here. I think the reason it took us on Saturday, after calling for the volunteer rescue squad to come here with the jaws of life and the parrot's beak of choppiness, took them 3/4 of an hour to get this car open and remove what was left of George. I don't think there was any possible chance that George's owner could have got him out. So, as I was saying, that's how the fire got into the car. Here's another little piece of evidence of how hot it was on the outside of the car. There's the number plate. That's where the number plate should be. And it's not an aluminium number plate, that's a sheet steel number plate. But it's not as thick as the sheet steel of the car, so it came up to air temperature and it got hotter and it burnt the number plate. So there you have it. Officially, this is not a crime scene, and it probably won't become a crime scene until somebody who knows what happened or saw something happen on Thursday night presents themselves to the local constabulary in Glen Innes and tells them what they know. Because it seems to me that this was not in any way spontaneous combustion, and it also seems to me that under the New South Wales Coroners Act, the coroner must investigate all fires. Part of New South Wales statute law, so I want to know why this is not a crime scene, because it is a fire. Therefore, a report should be made to the coroner, and the report should contain the information that the intensity of the fire is such that copious quantities of accelerant and an ignition source appear to have been applied deliberately and with malice aforethought in order to cause this conflagration. And I think it should be investigated vigorously in the interests of bringing the perpetrator to book as soon as possible before some of George's friends decide that they think they know who to blame and we start getting vigilante payback bullshit happening in a little country town. Perfectly clear to me, this didn't happen of its own accord. Somebody made it happen. Somebody did it. If you know who did it, if you saw who did it, I strongly urge you to go and tell the Glen Innes police what you know. Warbles on a lot to YouTube from what is currently not a crime scene. Ciao.